Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast. Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is John Decoteau. John Decoteau is the Vice President of Military and Campus Admissions at Universal Technical Institute, the nation's leading provider of training for aspiring automotive, motorcycle, diesel, marine, and collision repair technicians. UTI also offers welding and CNC machining training. As Vice President, Campus and Military Admissions, he has the honor of leading UTI's admissions teams in their work to assist prospective students in determining if training for a skilled trade could be the right path for them. Well, good afternoon, John. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, sir. How you doing today?
Awesome, John. I appreciate you jumping on and appreciate your story. And we're going to jump right into that in a second. But again, I just wanted to thank you for your service. And we both were brothers in the Marine Corps. So again, thank you. So John, jumping in, you've got quite the career. Like I talked about, you were in the Marine Corps for several years, and then you were a branch manager at an organization. And now you're the Vice President of Military and Campus Admissions at Universal Technical Institute. Could you share with our audience the secret to your career growth and what inspires you?
You know, if you were going to point to one thing is no one gets anywhere by themselves. And throughout my life, starting, with my dad and just people throughout my career, I've always found if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find a different room, and was always around people that inspired me to be able to do more. If I had to say anything, it's being surrounded by great people that inspires you. From my dad growing up to joining the Marine Corps, there was a guy named Lieutenant Sanju Shinde. To in the banking industry, there was a guy who was a mentor of mine, that was also a mentor of mine in the Corps, named Brian Hilliard. And then transitioning to UTI, you've got guys like Jeff Mickey that are at the top of their game. And, you look at each of them, those are the guys that you go to lunch with. You listen to every word and it's like, hey, if I can incorporate this piece of my game, I could take it to the next level. So, if I had to attribute anything to kind of my lifelong story of career growth, is being humble and hungry and never taking a day for granted and working every day like it was, my last day. When you speak to what inspires you, it's once you've made it, opening up the door for other people, whether it be in talent acquisition, finding, that young man or woman that wants to make a difference, or being able to provide a path for others. And, a recent example of this is career skills programs. The Department of Defense developed a career skills program for young men and women to be able to get trained while they're on active duty, to be able to train while they're in, and then walk out into a career. So at UTI, we were able to partner with a company called BMW. You may have heard of them. And we put together a program on Camp Pendleton that's a 16-week program where we recruit young men and women across the entire Department of Defense that are within 6 months of their end of active service or when they're getting out of the military, that would have transferable skills to be successful with BMW. 4 times a year, we select 12 people and they train for 16 weeks. And when they walk out with a member level certification with BMW, and then walk into an actual job or career with BMW. So, when you speak to, what inspires me is no one gets anywhere by themselves. I remember all the mentors that helped me get to where I'm at, and you owe it to other generations to be able to do for them what other people have done for you.
I love that. Simply do, John. I can tell you that over the last several years, probably the last 10 plus years at least, I've turned around and mentored several people. In fact, I'm mentoring some people now, some younger folks, and that just not only inspires me, but you're right, you have to give back and help continue this community of building ourselves up. So I appreciate that. John, jumping into question 2, can you briefly talk to the survey you recently conducted with OnePoll about Americans' attitudes toward their careers during the pandemic?
Absolutely. 2020 has been a year like no one's ever seen, especially with the economic shifts that we haven't seen probably in decades. UTI wanted to take a look at this and basically how Americans view their career and how the pandemic has affected their career choices. In October of 2020, we surveyed 2,000 Americans, 18 to 35, across the areas where we have campuses, states like California, Arizona, Texas, Illinois, Florida, North Carolina, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And it was pretty interesting. We found that 42% of Americans had a career light bulb moment during COVID-19. And even more responded, with 54% having strongly considered changing their career over the last 6 months. I think this pandemic has gave a lot of Americans time to reflect on what makes me happy and how can I take care of my family the best ways.
That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. And I think that survey was really important, especially during these unprecedented times. So, John, what trends do you anticipate seeing in the job market based off that study?
Typically during economic downturns, people and businesses keep their vehicles longer. And, when people keep their vehicles longer, that traditionally means there's going to be more demand to maintain and service them. We're pretty happy to see our graduates securing jobs to be able to meet the industry's needs with the hard and soft skills required by employers today. Obviously, it goes without saying there are great paying jobs available in this industry. And our study indicates that many people are looking for a career that would allow them to be able to use their hands and not be able to sit behind a desk all day. We anticipate over the next month to the next year that you're going to have more people coming into the career trades that we teach.
Awesome. All right, John, this last question here, just on that study again, what does the study show in terms of desk jobs and skilled trades?
As our nation experiences record rates of unemployment, we continue to see employer demand for our graduates. And we're seeing growing interest in our programs and technical careers as well. Some of the stats our study showed us was 53% of the respondents are looking for a new job that would allow them to ever avoid stepping foot in an office again. 42% of those surveyed have thought about pursuing a career in a skilled trade. And an additional 52% said they would love to have a job where they could work with their hands. This goes hand in hand with a lot of the trends that we're already seeing. At UTI, we have over 3,000 tuition reimbursement incentive program employers, or what we call TRIP employers. Because the demand in our industry is so great, they're willing to help young men and women that are pursuing these career fields to be able to pay for their education in order to return to work for one of those employers.
That's awesome. I appreciate, John, what you're doing personally and as a leader there, but also what UTI is doing as well. And I can't thank you enough. And I think it's amazing, especially, again, in these challenging times with the pandemic. So, John, I just want to thank you. It was a pleasure having you on the show today. And I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Roger. Hey, thank you very much, sir. Always great to talk to another Marine, and appreciate you highlighting our industry and what we do, because it makes a difference. These trades and skills are in demand and they're not going away. And there's projected over, 1 million jobs in the next 10 years in the career fields that we teach. Thank you again. Appreciate your time. And thank you again for your service.
Thank you, John. Semper Fi.
All right, brother.